Yeah, good morning. Thanks to Dieter and hello from Germany. And yeah, welcome to today's session. I'm looking forward to the next 30 minutes. And yeah, Dieter already told you some things about me, so I don't have to add a lot of more. Maybe it's interesting for you. I worked as a social worker and a debt counselor for 7 years, so I experienced it all by myself. And now I went into research and yeah. The IFF is a non-profit research institute that has been conducting research for over 30 years and on behalf of public clients on national or international level, consumer association and private companies. And we are focusing primarily on vulnerable consumers, especially the self-employed or the over-indebted. And yeah, Celeste Group is the reason why I am here today. So I will share my screen for you so that you can read out. Uh, so I think I had technical issues, but now you can see my screenshot, my screen. Okay, great. So, um, so today I'm talking about the legal framework in Germany about debt counseling. And debt counseling in Germany is regulated by some basic regulations, and I will give you a brief overview of this today. As you will see, the framework conditions in Germany are somewhat a little bit complicated. So I will give you an overview, and I hope that it's okay to that you can learn something about it, how it works, or even not works, like you will see in the next minutes. So debt regulation in Germany are not only a matter of the federal government or our 16 federal states. It is much worse because they are a municipal task. And this means that we have to deal with a lot of regulations in Germany. So let's see together where that leads. To give you a better understanding of the situation in Germany, here's a brief general explanation of debt counseling in Germany. So first, debt counseling offices were established in Germany in 1958. At the moment, there are about 1,550 debt and insolvency counseling offices that are under the patronage of municipalities, charities like Caritas, Diaconia, NGOs like the Red Cross, or consumer protection agencies. And the services usually provided in these offices include budget overview, economic crisis intervention, budget planning, financial services, social law advice, legal advice, educational and preventive help, and psychosocial counseling. And there are also some networks of debt counseling providers and payers in Germany. More specifically is the Nationwide Association of Debt Counselors or the Organization of the Welfare Federations in Germany. And the municipalities in Germany are responsible for financing debt counseling and the federal states for insolvency counseling. So this leads in some federal states to separations, which however are not technically justified. So the transition between debtor and insolvency counseling is very difficult and not that easy, like I will explain in the next slides. Important to know, in Germany, we have the principle of subsidiarity. That means social policy and legislation are shaped by the principle of subsidiarity. It ensures the diversity of social services and the right of choice of citizens seeking help. So in providing the necessary facilities to provide support, the legislator has given priority to the voluntary welfare organizations. So there's always a priority that welfare organizations are providing things like debt counseling. And only if they are not, if they can't do it, the state has to prepare it. And the principle of subsidiarity is intended to promote the self-effort of individual citizens as well as the communities in which citizens live. So the state steps back from a task and can that can also be fulfilled by a subordinate organization. So otherwise, the state would have determined, regulate, and administer every little thing from above at great expense. So subsidiarity plays an important role about all in social policy. So it's not just a matter of debt counseling, it's a matter of the whole social policy system in Germany, like, for example, or the education policy. There you can always find the subsidiarity principle. So, like I said, the federal states are responsible for financing the implementation of overall regulation procedures like insolvency counseling. And the legal basis for this is provided by the respective state implementation laws for the insolvency code of the federal states. So each of the 16 federal states have their own regulations with this. And the federal states participate in the promotion of the counseling centers recognized under Section 305 Insolvency Act. So it's a special paragraph which you can receive from your federal states. So social debt counseling can be active in the area of insolvency counseling as well as in the area of account seizure if it's recognized by the authority of this court. So if a debt counseling center, for example, has this recognition about Section 305, they're allowed to give special advice if your account is being taken by someone. And in the area of insolvency counseling, recognized agency under this code can be enable the debtor to access insolvency proceedings and residual debt discharge. So only if you're a recognized agency by this paragraph, you're allowed to help the over indebted ones with special things regarding to court. Also, if you have this recognition about 305 Insolvency Act, you have some requirements to fulfill. So, for example, the center is headed by a reliable person who is also ensures the reliability of the individual staff members. So the office is permanent and debt counseling is carried out as one of its main tasks. So you're not allowed to do felling jeans or something like that. Your main task has to be doing debt counseling. Then at least you have to have one person with practical experience in debt counseling regularly, so the last 2 years. And you have to, the necessary legal counseling is ensured. So your whole team has one person who is a legal officer, or you have a contract or something like that with another office who can help you if there are legal questions. So you have to fulfill all these conditions so that you can apply for being accepted as a 305 Insolvency Act accepted center. Like I said, it's in Germany, it's really complicated because we need of all of that, we have different rules. And just to give you a quick overview, when it's come to debt counseling in Germany, there is a distinction made between 5 groups. And if you want to receive debt counseling, at first you have to look to which of these groups you belong. As you can see, it's really complicated, but in a nutshell, unemployed persons are usually entitled to debt counseling through Social Code 2. All other, it depends. And this is a big problem in Germany because only people being unemployed have the right to go to debt counseling. All others, there is no really clear if they get debt counseling or not. I will explain that on the next slides. So as you can see, we have persons with entitlement to social assistance or basic benefits according to Social Code 12. We have persons without entitlement to social benefits for current subsistence according to Social Code or 12. So Social Codes 2 and 12 are the most relevant social codes regarding to debt counseling. Then we have employed persons or recipients of it's called ALG1 in Germany. It means when you are unemployed less than 12 months, and at first you get a special form of social assistance, and after 12 months you are getting going to social code 2, just in brief overview. Then people capable of gainful employment and in need of social code 2 benefits, and members of the community of need without entitlement to social code 2. You see, it's not that easy to say everyone can go to debt counseling in Germany because we have no right of debt counseling in Germany. So it's really complicated who belongs to which group and who has to pay for it. So at first, regarding to Social Code 2, the most important funding body for debt counseling is the municipality according to the Social Code 2 or 12 and within the framework of general services of general interest. So for this purpose, cities and administrative districts either support voluntary welfare organizations and consumer advice centers. They commission them to provide debt counseling and maintain their own debt counseling service centers if there is no consumer agency or something like that who will do it. And the central legal basis for financing social debt counseling are currently standardized in Social Code 2 or 12. And further target group basis can be a Social Code 8, but it's really special, so I don't will mention that either 2 and 12 as the most frequently aspects. And a frequent point of discussion is the question to what extent debt counseling is voluntary. Because even if the job center classifies debt as a problem in the placement in the labor market and refers the affected persons to debt counseling, there should be no obligation that the affected persons have to use debt counseling. But of course, the job center, there are a lot of people working in the job center who are telling over indebted people, you have to do it. And there is a big discussion because social workers of debt counseling saying no, it's not allowed to say that it's obligated. Debt counseling should be free. You have to decide by your own if you want to take it or not. And the municipalities and districts are responsible for financing social debt counseling for employable and over-indebted individuals. And the basis for entitlement to counseling is the need for assistance and support within the integration to work. So incapacitated and over-indebted natural persons are generally entitled to debt counseling when receiving social assistance or basic security in old age. In particular, the municipalities are to work towards ensuring that existing suitable institutions, especially those of the voluntary welfare sector, are entrusted with this task as a matter of priority. I will explain that to you in the next slides. So I brought the paragraph with you. Like you can see, we have the paragraph 16a, Social Code 2, that debt counseling as a municipal integration service is including debt counseling as part 2. So like you can see, paragraph 17 again shows the principle of subsidiarity, like I mentioned some slides before. Tasks should always be solved by the lowest level of hierarchy, preferably by an individual or small groups. This should give the greatest possible of self-determination and personal responsibility to the individual. If it's possible or not sensible to solve the task as an individual, the state should intervene and help in accomplishing the task. And like you can see here, it here's also referring to payment, because in Germany there are some differences in paying debt counseling. There are two main systems: flat rate or case-by-case remuneration. And for debt counseling, of course, is the best way a flat rate. But the state, in the most of the federal states, the state is always paying by case paying. And I will tell you at the next slide to which this leads, because of course it's not the best way in social services doing a case-by-case payment. Here I brought to you the paragraph 17, but at the moment I will skip it because I think we always have it, but just if you see it, the PowerPoint afterwards that you know what it's in it. So then we have the social code 12, so the financing of other affected persons, not the unemployed persons, like it's here about persons who are employed or pensioners, something like that. This can be provided by Social Code 12. However, there are no uniform regulations on this. So like I brought to you, there are the words shall and may, and they have big differences. As you can see, words can be powerful, and may and shall are a big difference because it's again, the responsible person is free to decide at his or own discretion. So again, there is no right. So you have to be the lucky one that the responsible person is saying, okay, you are a matter for debt counseling. I will pay this for you. Otherwise, they will decline it, and you have no way to go to social debt advised financing by the state. So maybe you have to go to a private one. Here again, you can see the paragraph. I don't want to read it all out, but I marked the key questions, like you can see, with reasonable costs of counseling. And again, here's a problem. What are appropriate costs? So again, here's a small problem by being proved if you are accepted to debt counseling or not, because again, it's a question the responsible person is free to decide. So already a short conclusion, like you can see the funding responsibility of the districts and the independent cities, and the actual type and scope of funding varies from municipality to municipality. So there's no thing that you can see. So most of them are working this way. So you have to see at each municipality how there are the regulations. Then in Germany, we have the Legal Services Act. In Germany, it's the Rechtsdienstleistungsgesetz. So, and it's a general legal framework for the counseling and support services of the social debt counseling services. It was introduced in year 2008. And it's providing extrajudicial legal services for third parties in subject to authorization. So legal service and debt counseling already exist when individual claims are checked for the legality, for example. And the activities in debt counseling, such as assessing claims, legal questions on enforcement protection, securing livelihoods, as well as acting extrajudicially towards third parties on behalf of a debtor, constitute a legal service. So usually it's in Germany, only lawyers and persons like that are allowed to do legal service. But at debt counseling, there are people working who are no lawyers, for example, social workers. And so the basis for being allowed to do these things in debt counseling are the Legal Services Act. So that also a social worker is allowed to, for example, be an answer to legal questions, because like we learned some slides before, each debt counseling center needs to have lawyer support, that in case when a social worker has a legal question or something like that, that he has the possibility to ask them. And according to the Legal Services Act, publicly recognized bodies are allowed to provide legal services act within the scope of their respective tasks and areas of responsibility. I just mentioned before what are the areas of responsibility in Germany, like crisis intervention and things like that. And this applies to voluntary welfare associations and their institutions, as well as to consumer centers and other publicly founded consumer associations. Yes. Then, what does it mean for finance in Germany? Like you can see, it's really complicated in Germany. We have a lot of regulations and different rules, and it's not that easy to see which rule belongs to who. And in Germany, debt counseling is a matter of municipalities. I already mentioned this. And in a few federal states, financing participation is already running by banks or businesses. So this is another finance where we have in some federal states that the savings and Giro Association banks, for example, are involved in financing debt counseling. So it's not in all federal states, but in 4. And yeah. And so, like you can see, debt counseling in Germany has no permanent funding. Usually, new applications have to be made all few years. For example, I worked at a debt counseling center, and every 5 years, we have to fill out a lot of paper and do a new application to the state if we will get another 5 years being financed by them. So it's really annoying because when you search for new colleagues or something like that, and you only have a guarantee for 5 years, a lot of people say no, just for 5 years, I don't want to go to this. So yeah. Then we have a long-standing demand in Germany that the demand key should be the basis for funding. For example, one of the big associations I mentioned before says you need 2 full-time debt counselors for every 50,000 inhabitants. Right now, it's much lower than that. And yes, on the basis of this calculation of need, according to estimates, there's a shortage of about 1,600 debt counselors nationwide. So yeah, there is there's a lot to do of finding more persons, but if there is no financing from the state, you can't write out the things. So then flat rates per case are a big problem because they often lead to cases that are easy to process being preferred in order to manage the number of cases. So you have a long list of persons who are claiming for help. So there are debt advisors who say, okay, I have to fulfill a special number of cases so that we get our funding. So maybe I prefer the person who has only a low number of debts and not the one with a big bag full of paper and which I have to being 2 weeks to sort out everything without her. Of course, it's not in every counseling center, but if you need your funding to pay your rent and something like this, it's it's a big problem. So this leads to the problem of access in Germany. An estimated number of 6 million people in Germany are already over indebted. So this affects every 12th adult. And the offer of debt counseling centers is completely insufficient. So only a minority of over-indebted households, estimated about 10 to 15%, can currently be advised in counseling center. So 10 to 15%, it's a really low number of people. And like the triggers of over-indebtedness are often unemployment, illness, or low income. And this means financial, social, and often also health problems. But right now, they have no right to seek for help in debt counseling centers. So the number of over-indebted people has just dropped somewhat in Germany, but however, this is likely to change soon. Inflation and the energy crisis are likely to lead a sharp increase again. So according to projections, there are about 15 million people in Germany who could run out of money when the bills for water and energy will arrive. So those who are even then overburdened with debts will need also debt counseling. But debt counseling capacities are limited already now, and the result is long waiting times. For many people, this is already a barrier. They do not even register for counseling because if they hear you have to wait 6 months, they say, oh no, I don't want even to wait for 6 months. And right now, in Germany, we're having the energy crisis and things like that. People have to wait for a longer time at the next month. And already last year, waiting times averaged almost 4 months in some places, and in some places even quite more. Meanwhile, demand is increasing. At 1 in 5 of the counseling centers being surveyed, inquiries have increased by more than 30% already now, and the bills are already not all persons in Germany already have the big bills, so we think that it will in the summer it will even arise. So so as long we have no right to debt counseling in Germany, there always be a big number of people who are not being able to seek for help in state official social services, and so they may go to private service centers, but we don't know about their quality. Private debt counseling in Germany don't always mean that there is a low quality, but there is it's hard to do the difference for the people now. Where can I go and get good help, and where do they only want my money? So this was a short run through the